It's 7:43 p.m. inside the Palisade, San Francisco's most expensive rooftop restaurant. A place where the view is worth more than the food. Floor-to-ceiling glass reflects the skyline like a mirror. Soft jazz hums in the background. Silverware glitters beneath gold chandeliers. And at the long center table, surrounded by $3,000 suits, foreign wines and quiet arrogance, sits Li Mei Zheng, founder of Zheng Innovations. Across from her are Derek Caldwell and Trent Langley, the American co-CEOs of Caldwell Industries, two men who've built an empire out of patents, charm and confidence just loud enough to drown out doubt. Tonight's meeting is meant to finalize an $800 million merger between their companies. But to anyone watching closely, this dinner isn't a meeting. It's a test. Li Mei sits in silence, posture perfect, expression calm, her hands resting lightly on a folded napkin. She wears a silk ivory suit, no jewelry except a jade ring on her finger. Every move is deliberate, every breath measured. But Derek sees that silence and smirks. To him, it's a weakness. He leans back in his chair and whispers to Trent, "Guess she's one of those silent types, looks good on camera, doesn't say much in meetings." Trent laughs under his breath, "Yeah, easy money." Li Mei doesn't react. She doesn't need to. She's seen this before. The way arrogance dresses up as confidence. The way power assumes it can speak louder than grace. Behind her, Jordan Ellis, a young black waiter in his mid-20s, moves quietly between tables, carrying a bottle of Chateau Margaux that costs more than his monthly rent. His uniform is crisp, his shoes polished, his face calm. But his eyes, sharp, observant, never stop moving. He's seen the way they look at her, the way they dismiss her every pause, every nod. He's seen men like Derek before, the kind who believe volume equals intelligence. What Jordan doesn't know yet is that this night, this single dinner, will rewrite his entire life. Derek clears his throat, adjusting his tie. "So, Miss Zheng," he says, dragging the syllables of her name, "this deal would give your company a nice foothold in the US market. We'll handle your patents, licensing and PR. You just keep making your little robots." Li Mei lifts her eyes slowly. "We build autonomous neural systems, Mr. Caldwell, not robots." Her voice is gentle, almost melodic, but firm. Derek waves his hand dismissively. "Right, sure, machines that think, whatever you call them." Trent laughs, loud enough for the table next to them to glance over. "Don't take him too seriously," he says to Li Mei. "We're just trying to keep this light-hearted." She nods once softly. "I appreciate humour, Mr. Langley, especially when it hides fear." The laughter dies immediately. Jordan hears that line as he pours wine into Derek's glass, and his lips almost twitch. She'd fired a shot so subtly they didn't even realize they'd been hit. But in rooms like this, truth never goes unnoticed for long. The food arrives, Wagyu beef, truffle risotto, and caviar flown in from the Caspian Sea. Jordan moves with practiced ease, swapping plates, refilling glasses, staying invisible. That's what service staff are trained to do. Blend in. Be useful, not seen. But Jordan notices something others don't, the way Li Mei studies everyone, not with pride, but precision. Every comment, every smirk, every tone. She's not just sitting in silence, she's collecting data. And still, Derek and Trent talk over her. Trent gestures at the skyline. "You see that view? That's America. We build, we move, we expand. I think you'll like working with us, we're fast." Li Mei answers gently, "Speed without direction is chaos." Trent chuckles, missing the meaning entirely. "You've got a sharp tongue. I like that." Derek leans in. "Well, as long as we're all on the same page, this should go smoothly. No need for language barriers or cultural misunderstandings." That line lands wrong. Jordan feels it in his chest. Li Mei's face remains composed, but her eyes flicker for half a second. And in that half second, Jordan realizes this dinner isn't business. It's humiliation served in courses. As the evening continues, the arrogance thickens like smoke. Derek brags about his new yacht. Trent cracks jokes about learning chopsticks for future board meetings. Li Mei listens, sipping tea instead of wine, her silence the only thing in the room with dignity. Jordan glances at her from across the table as he clears plates. There's something about the way she holds herself, unbothered, but aware. He's seen power before, but not like this. Not power that doesn't need to prove itself. He thinks of his mother, who worked as a housekeeper for 20 years, always saying, "People will tell you who they are by how they treat the quiet ones." Tonight he's watching that lesson play out in real time. If you're still watching, hit subscribe, because what's about to happen next will flip this entire dinner upside down. The second course arrives. More wine. More ego. Trent jokes about cultural quirks. Derek corrects Li Mei's English poorly. And by dessert, the table has turned into a slow-motion car crash. Jordan keeps serving, but something's shifting in him. Quietly. Every word Derek says lands heavier, uglier. And when he laughs about how some people buy companies just to feel important, Jordan sees Li Mei's hand tighten slightly around her teacup. That's the first visible crack. He can tell. She's holding back something powerful. Something waiting for the right moment. Because for all their arrogance, the men don't realize they're sitting across from a woman whose technology they need, not the other way around. Li Mei's company, Zheng Innovations, holds patents that could transform Caldwell Industries' outdated software overnight. Without her, their stock will crash in months. But they can't see that. They're too busy talking to themselves. Jordan refills Li Mei's tea and hears her whisper under her breath, in Mandarin. It's quiet, almost like a sigh. The loudest men always hear the least. He freezes. He knows that language. He understands it perfectly. And even though he says nothing yet, something inside him clicks. Because tonight, the quiet black waiter and the silent Chinese billionaire are about to teach this table what real fluency sounds like. The laughter inside the palisade is sharp enough to cut glass. The chandeliers shimmer, the skyline burns orange from the setting sun, and beneath it all, there's a tension no one dares to name. Derek Caldwell leans back in his seat, swirling his wine. "Beautiful view, isn't it?" he says, flashing that CEO smile that hides everything except arrogance. Trent chuckles beside him. "Oh, it's stunning. Shame some people only see buildings, not opportunities." They aren't talking about the view. They're talking about her, Li Mei Zheng, seated quietly at the end of the table, perfectly poised, her hands folded on her lap. She doesn't respond. She doesn't need to. Her stillness is her armor. But to men like Derek and Trent, silence is weakness, and that mistake will cost them more than they can imagine. The waiter, Jordan Ellis, glides past with a silver tray, eyes steady, face unreadable. He's learned how to move through rooms like this, where money and disrespect mix like perfume and smoke. But as Derek's voice grows louder, Jordan slows down. He can feel it. That shift in the air that tells him something ugly is about to happen. "Trent," Derek says, loud enough for half the room to hear, "you ever notice how quiet she is? I swear she's playing chess while we're playing checkers. Or maybe she's just pretending she understands the game." Trent laughs and the sound is cold. "Yeah, maybe it's cultural. You know, all that bowing and nodding. They're good at pretending." A few heads at the table turn. A few don't. But Li Mei stays still. Only her eyes move once toward Jordan, a glance so brief it could be missed. But he sees it, and something about it feels heavy, like a secret she's been forced to carry all night. Jordan moves to refill her glass, and that's when he hears it again. Li Mei whispers something under her breath, quiet, almost prayer-like. The words slip out softly and low in Mandarin. Jordan freezes mid-pour, because he understands every single word. They smile with their mouths, not their hearts. His hand trembles just slightly. The wine ripples in the glass. For a split second, he isn't in San Francisco anymore. He's back in Beijing, in the narrow alleys where he taught English to children by day and practiced Mandarin with old tea merchants at night. 6 years of immersion. 6 years of learning their language, their rhythm, their way of being. And now, standing here in a suit 2 sizes too small, he realizes he's the only one in this room who truly understands her. His manager, Simon, spots him hesitating and snaps quietly, "Keep serving, Ellis. Don't make eye contact." But how do you ignore someone being insulted in 2 languages at once? How do you stand there while silence is mistaken for stupidity? Derek raises his glass, smirking. "Well, here's to partnerships built on pretending to understand each other." The table erupts in laughter, cruel, careless laughter. Li Mei's jaw tightens. Jordan feels a flicker of something burn through him. Anger, shame, empathy. He can't tell which. But he knows one thing. This has gone too far. And in that moment, with nothing planned and everything at risk, he decides to speak. Jordan sets the bottle down gently. The room is still laughing. He takes one breath, then another. Then, in flawless, confident Mandarin, he says, Madam Zheng, your patience is an art, but even art shouldn't be mocked. The sound slices through the room. Laughter dies mid-breath. Forks freeze halfway to mouths. For 3 long seconds, nobody moves. Trent blinks. Wait, what did he just say? Derek frowns, looking around, confused. Li Mei's eyes rise, and this time they meet Jordan's fully. It's not a surprise in her gaze, it's recognition. She leans forward slowly. Then in Mandarin she replies, I thought I was alone in this room. Jordan bows his head just slightly. You're not, Madam Zheng. And just like that, the energy shifts. It's subtle, but it's there. The power, once held by the loudest voices, now sits quietly between 2 people who'd been invisible all night. Derek breaks the silence with a forced laugh. All right. Cute moment, guys. Didn't know the help was bilingual. Maybe you can fetch us dessert and subtitles next? A few uneasy chuckles follow, but the tone is fractured now. Something about the dynamic has changed, and everyone can feel it. Jordan doesn't respond. He simply looks at Li Mei again, waiting. If you're still watching right now, you already know. Something big is about to happen. And if you love stories where arrogance meets justice, hit subscribe, because what happens next will flip the entire table. Li Mei takes a slow sip of her wine, then sets the glass down with precision. When she speaks again, it's in Mandarin, calm but commanding. Tell me, Mr. Ellis, what did you hear tonight? Jordan hesitates. He knows the answer could cost him his job, maybe more. But she's looking at him, really looking for the first time. He straightens. In English or Mandarin, ma'am? A faint smile touches her lips. Both. Jordan's voice lowers, but his words are clear. In English I heard business talk, polite lies, but in truth I heard mockery. I heard men pretending to lead when they were only trying to dominate. He pauses, then switches seamlessly to Mandarin. But I also heard you, Madam Zheng, speaking with grace even when surrounded by disrespect. That's not silence, that's strength. The translation ripples across the table like electricity. The executives shift uncomfortably. For the first time tonight, Derek doesn't look sure of himself. Simon hurries over, whispering harshly, Jordan, what the hell are you doing? You're done here. But Jordan doesn't even turn, because Li Mei raises her hand, stopping him cold. She looks around the table, her tone quiet but cutting. In my culture, silence is not surrender, she says in accented English. It is observation. And tonight, I've seen enough. You can almost hear the heartbeat of the room. Every person realizes this dinner isn't ending the way they thought, because now the woman they dismissed has an ally, a voice, and soon she'll have the upper hand. The room is silent, the kind of silence that feels alive, charged, dangerous. Li Mei gestures toward Jordan with calm authority. Then please, she says, translate for me. It seems my voice travels farther through yours. Jordan hesitates, but her look, that subtle, regal nod, tells him everything. He steps forward. He begins translating Li Mei's earlier Mandarin, line by line, word for word. Her polite sentences, once thought harmless, become razor blades when spoken in English. I said, a partnership without respect is not a partnership, but a purchase. And when I said I admire American efficiency, I meant your speed in underestimating others. Each line lands like a blow. The executives shift uncomfortably, realizing the woman they'd mocked had been defending herself all along. Trent forces a laugh. Cute. Real cute. You expect us to believe this? Waiter's translations? Jordan doesn't flinch. He turns to Li Mei and responds in Mandarin, smoothly. The rhythm so natural, even a non-speaker can feel it's authentic. Li Mei nods approvingly. Continue, she says. Derek interjects, slamming his glass down. Enough games. This is a business dinner, not a language lesson. Jordan meets his gaze calmly. With respect, sir, business isn't a game, unless you've already rigged the rules. The table falls silent again. Li Mei opens her sleek black tablet and slides it across the table. This, she says evenly, is your proposed merger contract. She gestures for Jordan to read. His eyes skim the document, and what he finds makes his stomach tighten. Page after page, hidden beneath polite corporate phrasing, are clauses designed to strip Zheng Innovations of control once the merger is finalized. Hidden profit reallocations, patent seizure loopholes, strategic board restructuring that would leave Li Mei as a figurehead, powerless in her own empire. He looks up, jaw clenched. They plan to gut your company. Trent sits forward, defensive. That's ridiculous. It's standard legal language. Jordan scrolls down. Clause 47C, post-acquisition oversight to be determined by primary shareholders. That means you two. Derek's face reddens. You don't know what you're reading, but Jordan keeps going, voice clear and steady. Clause 62B, any proprietary AI data will be transferred for evaluation by Caldwell Technical Divisions. He looks at Li Mei. That's your entire research database. They would own it the moment you signed. The room begins to shift again, not physically, but emotionally. The power dynamic, once tilted toward Derek and Trent, is sliding, fast, toward Li Mei and the young man who just broke their illusion of control. Li Mei sits back watching. Her silence now feels dangerous, like a knife waiting for the right moment to cut. Derek glances at Trent, voice rising. This is absurd. He's making us sound like criminals. Jordan replies evenly. I didn't make you sound like anything, sir. You wrote it yourself. And then Li Mei speaks in Mandarin, her tone calm but heavy. Truth does not shout, it waits. Jordan translates instantly. The words hit harder than any accusation. If you're watching this right now, pause for a second, because this is where everything flips. And if you love watching arrogance crumble in real time, make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss how this dinner ends. Now back to the story. Li Mei gestures to Jordan again. Read the next section. He scrolls further and freezes. Hidden in the appendix is a transcript, an audio log. The document references a recorded meeting between Derek, Trent, and their legal counsel, mocking Li Mei's accent and discussing how to restructure her out quietly after the merger. Jordan's voice tightens. You recorded this? Li Mei nods faintly. My legal team suspected dishonesty. I prefer to confirm before I forgive. Jordan presses play. Through the speakers, Derek's own voice fills the room. She won't notice. Just smile and nod. They all do. Once the ink's dry, we'll fold Zheng into the system. She's lucky to even be in the room. Trent's voice follows, laughing. You mean she'll be lucky to still have a seat at her own table? The recording ends. For a moment, no one breathes. The walls seem to close in. Derek's face drains of colour. That's taken out of context. Li Mei cuts him off gently. Context is a luxury earned by truth, Mr. Caldwell. Jordan looks around the table, at the stunned silence, the nervous glances, the quiet humiliation now dripping from every face, and then, with the same calm tone he's carried all night, he says, Madam Zheng, shall I continue translating? Li Mei's eyes gleam with something between pride and relief. Yes, Mr. Ellis, continue. He turns to Derek and Trent. You said earlier this was a dinner about partnership. I think we all see now it was a performance. Derek slams the table again, voice trembling now. You have no authority to be here. Jordan doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't need to. Neither does deceit. The words echo, steady, cold, final. For a few seconds, no one moves. The entire restaurant seems to hold its breath. Then, slowly, Li Mei rises from her chair. She adjusts her jacket, slides her tablet into her briefcase, and says quietly, This meeting is over. She turns to Jordan. Mr. Ellis, would you accompany me? He nods, not as a waiter now, but as something more. Together they walk toward the elevator as the two executives sit frozen, surrounded by witnesses, drowning in their own silence. Just before the elevator doors close, Li Mei glances back at Derek and says softly, In my country we say silence is gold. But tonight, she pauses, yours is worth nothing. The doors slide shut, and for the first time in their careers, Derek Caldwell and Trent Langley are the ones left speechless. That night, a waiter and a billionaire walked out of the palisade as allies, bound not by status, but by truth. The game had flipped, and the story was just beginning. The dining room, once alive with chatter and champagne, now feels like a battlefield. The laughter is gone. All that remains is silence, thick and uncomfortable, the kind that exposes guilt better than any courtroom ever could. Jordan stands still, his hands steady, his uniform faintly stained from the spilled wine of a shaken billionaire. Across from him, Derek Caldwell's face is crimson with rage and humiliation. You're finished here, the manager hisses, gripping Jordan by the arm. Pack your things, right now. But before Jordan can even respond, a calm, confident voice cuts through the noise. Actually, the voice says, he's not finished. You are. Heads turn. From a shadowed corner of the restaurant, Raymond Cole rises slowly. The man everyone thought was just another background investor is now commanding the room's full attention. His tone carries the authority of someone who doesn't need to shout to be respected. Who exactly is this man? And why does everyone suddenly look terrified? Raymond adjusts his cufflinks, steps forward, and locks eyes with the manager. "You just tried to fire the only person in this room with integrity," he says. Bold move. The manager stammers. "Mr. Cole, I didn't realize." "You never do," Raymond interrupts. "That's the problem." Lee May stands as well, her calm never once broken. "Jordan Ellis," she says clearly, "you spoke truth in a room full of deception. That's what leaders do." Derek tries to salvage his pride. "This is ridiculous. That boy humiliated us." Raymond's head snaps toward him. "No," he says quietly, "you humiliated yourselves. He just translated it." The entire table falls silent again. Even Trent, usually Derek's echo chamber, looks away. Lee May gestures toward her tablet, the merger document still glowing on the screen. "Caldwell Industries' proposal is hereby withdrawn," she says coldly. Jiang Innovations will seek partners who value respect, not control. And just like that, $800 million evaporates in the space of one sentence. Derek's jaw tightens. "You'll regret this," he spits. Lee May meets his glare, unflinching. "I don't regret cutting poison out of my body." Raymond smiles faintly. "Well said." He turns back to Jordan. "You studied in Beijing, didn't you?" Jordan blinks, surprised. "Yes, sir. 6 years." "I read your application," Raymond says. "You applied to our internship program last year. I kept your file." Jordan's eyes widen. He never got a reply. He assumed he'd been rejected. Raymond continues, "I recognized your name tonight. I wanted to see if your resume matched your character. Now I know it does." Then, turning to Lee May, he says, "Madam Jiang, I think we just found the next voice for your global relations team." Lee May nods without hesitation. "Agreed." The room gasps. Derek's glass slips from his hand, shattering on the marble floor. "You're giving him a job?" Derek demands. "He's a waiter." Raymond smiles, almost pitying. "He was. Now he's a future executive." The waiter just became the boss, and nobody saw it coming. Lee May steps closer to Jordan. "I'm offering you a full scholarship to the International Business Program at Zheng University in Shanghai," she says softly. "After that, a position in my global division. You'll learn more about business in those halls than any of these men could ever teach you." Jordan can barely speak. "I don't know what to say." Lee May replies, "Say yes." He does. Cameras flash from nearby journalists who'd been covering the dinner for the merger story. The scene is surreal, a quiet act of justice unfolding in real time. If you're still watching this moment, you know this story isn't just about business, it's about dignity. So before we continue, hit that subscribe button, because here we tell stories of power that don't come from money, but from courage. 2 days later, the story breaks across every major headline. Black waiter exposes racist executive, saves $800 deal. Caldwell Industries in crisis as merger partner walks out. From waiter to executive, the story of Jordan Ellis. Clips from that night circulate online. Jordan's calm face as he translates, Derek's arrogance melting into fear, Lee May's poised composure. It becomes more than a viral video, it becomes a lesson. In talk shows, people debate what happened. Some call Jordan a hero, others call him lucky. But those who understand what really happened know it wasn't luck. It was timing, courage, and truth. Because sometimes one sentence spoken at the right time can destroy an empire. Meanwhile, Caldwell Industries starts to crumble. Investors pull out. The board resigns. The company's stock plummets 42% in a week. Derek states the press, claiming the incident was blown out of proportion. But his apology sounds hollow because everyone's already seen the footage. Lee May, on the other hand, stands before cameras with Jordan beside her. Zheng Innovations, she says, believes in partnerships built on mutual respect. We will not trade values for profit. Reporters ask who Jordan is. She simply says, a reminder that fluency isn't just about language, it's about empathy. And that one quote alone breaks the internet. Soon Jordan's inbox is flooded, news outlets, universities, organizations, all wanting to feature his story. But he keeps his focus. He sends a message to his mother. Mom, I'm coming home next month, not as a waiter, as a global executive. She replies with just one line, I always knew. Weeks later, the Palisade hosts another dinner, this time celebrating Zheng Innovations' new expansion. At the head of the table sits Lee May Zheng. Beside her, dressed in a tailored navy suit, sits Jordan Ellis. calm, confident, and unshakably composed. The same waiters who once overlooked him now serve with quiet respect. Raymond raises his glass. To those who spoke truth when it wasn't convenient. Li Mei adds softly, and to those who listen glasses. Funny thing about silence, when you finally break it with truth, the world can't stop listening. Because in a world obsessed with titles, sometimes the waiter knows more about power than the men sitting at the table.